Welcome everybody to the Synapse Philosophy Group. We are on principle number 12 in Stephenson's textbook, the senior text, page 252. And we're rocking through this and we're getting into some meat of a philosophy of chiropractic. And we're on page 252. Alan's gonna read for us and let's go.
Perfect. Article 328, the interference with transmission of universal force, principle number 12. There can be interference with the transmission of universal forces. The phenomena of universal forces are common, and its interference is too common to be discussed at great length. A tree makes shade when the sun shines. Lead plates interfere with X-rays. Brass stops magnetism. Rubber and glass interfere with the passage of electricity, etc., etc. Whether these forces be radiant or conducted, there is a way to interfere with them. If they're being conducted through material, a gap in the conductor will stop their flow, and a diminishing of the size of the conductor will diminish the amount which gets through. As swiftly as the energies travel in the radiant form and with apparent ease, they all prefer to pause, enter, and be conducted by matter. If this were not true, we could have no electricity for use, no compasses, no radio sets, no shade for comfort, and no sunburns. Each of these strategies has a preference for certain kinds of matter. Having these well-established facts about natural phenomena, then it is not unreasonable to suppose innate forces might be radiant, but like other forms of energy, prefer a conductor and have a preference for the kind of conductor which is nerve tissue. And if this is true, is it not reasonable to suppose, though we cannot see this mental energy, that the impingement of this living conductor will interfere with the flow? It is true. It is no longer in the realm of theory. It has been proven time and again when adjustments have gotten sick people well.
You know, that
is some deep stuff.
Yeah. And interference, because what I'm thinking of, universal intelligence, God, is 100% all the time. But the interference with the transmission of universal force, there has to, that's where, to me, the limitation of matter comes in. Because matter is limited in that transmission of energy, has to go through spirit into the transmission of material for an action or a thought. So yeah, there's a lot in there. I love it. I love that one. I love it. Principle number 12. We don't spend enough time on it. Go ahead, Steve.
Would you guys explain this? That as swiftly as the energies travel in the radiant form and with apparent ease, they all prefer to pause, enter, and be conducted by matter. I'm thinking about radiant energy. How does that prefer matter, to be conducted by matter?
Like a lightning rod. That electricity finds that point.
Oh, that's a good example.
Yeah.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, because that's it's funny, as I was reading this and he gave all those examples, but then he comes back and he starts talking about how we wouldn't have sunburn if the energy didn't prefer the physical form.
Yeah.
The sunlight hits us, and that's what causes, and then it transforms when it hits us into a heat energy and or something that causes a destructive force. It can't be. It's too much to be adapted in the time frame.
Listen, you guys, what we're talking about is that the non-material, intelligent, which I consider a loving force, wants and prefers to be with to manifest. How about that? That's its nature. That's heavy duty. Thank you for that.
It's
Well, yeah,
nature
that's a
to
good
do.
point. And that's potentially why all the various forms in the universe exist.
Hey, this is being recorded, but I don't care. But it sounds woo-woo, and I love it because I talking about is love.
You know, and love likes to be expressed through matter.
Exactly.
You know, the transmission of love and just being in a loving room is received by the matter, the materia that is also animated by spirit. It's connecting the language of spirit, from spirit to spirit, is love.
You know, we have to remember that also that when we talk about universal forces, that they're unsolicitous. That again, that lightning that strikes can be destructive, and yet the electricity in the lamp is providing light to be able to, for us to work here and talk, or to be transmit this information, which goes from a force to being transmitted to the air and then back into a physical form so we can see each other here, which is magic.
I mean, the amount of magic and just amazement of all those things, you know, that's what these guys are really telling us, is like, be amazed.
Yeah.
Be amazed at this beautiful thing. Let me put it, I mean, these concepts of being able to put it into writing so we can read it, of really what they were thinking and digesting it this way, is just amazing. And they're telling us, be in amazement of all of it, in it, around it. Amazing. Yeah. Go ahead, Alan.
I just found a number of years ago, when the ICA started the philosophy group that they had, they were going to publish the PhD papers of a bunch of people, and they published and sent out copies of Stephenson's PhD paper. And I have a copy of that, and I'll try and make a copy and send it to you, Steve. And if you want it, to you, Haig, and to you, Steve, if you want it. I don't know if I have your email, Steve, but
yeah, I want it.
But I don't think they ever sent any others out. But I have that, and it's fascinating. And so,
yeah, I'd like to have that.
Chop liver over here.
Haig, you can have it too.
No, we don't talk to cod liver.
Guys that are running in the dark, I don't know. It's
so, you know,
universal forces are always destructive. He's using this a little bit differently, I think.
they're not necessarily destructive. They just don't care.
I thought they're always destructive. They always cause the
They're
breakdown.
unsolicitous. That doesn't mean they're necessarily destructive. There's a difference. Unsolicitous means they're just there. They're just a force that and they're not, and they, so that the wind that blew through New Orleans,
yeah, I know what you're saying,
was
but
destructive. But the wind also can be used. The wind that blows on the ocean when it moves a sailboat isn't destructive at that time. It's
I
just
remember
wind.
earlier that it said
And
actually
gravity sucks until it pulls you down and smacks your head on a rock.
76. If you turn to
Wind
70,
blows. When the wind blows, it could, it blows the some of the seedlings off of some of the plants that fertilize, and when the ultraviolet rays hit certain plants, what's it called, whatever, and it
Photosynthesis.
life. Yeah, photosynthesis, and and then when you take the force of universal force of like a the Niagara Falls, it creates energy.
Yeah.
With the, so it's it can be destructive, but has no, what is it?
Yes.
Solicitude for structures in which it goes on. It's, and it
Yeah,
can be
yes.
interacted with. So
You got a lot of
you have a-
solicitude tonight. I like it. I might have to look up
Dave,
solicitude.
you're exactly right. The light hits a plant,
Yeah.
which creates photosynthesis, and then it grows and produces food that then we eat and use. If it wasn't for that light hitting the plant, we wouldn't have food to eat.
And was it, didn't BJ or somebody said, I think it was BJ, talked about innate is proved by heliotropism. When a plant moves towards the light,
You ever see a field of sunflowers?
Oh, gorgeous, man. So
and they
cool.
all face the sun. They turn during the course of the day.
And and that is a proof of innate intelligence in
Yeah.
I mean, gorgeous.
They can be beneficial or harmful to the body. They may be applied either inside or outside of the body. They cannot be, that you're right. So that's in the freshman text.
In the freshman text, yeah.
The plant.
Let's go into number 13.
Dave, you saying something? You're a little quiet. You saying something? We want to hear you. Yeah, I see your lips moving.
Hold on. Let me turn this off. Hold on. Wait a minute. Is that better now? Can you hear me?
Perfect. There you go.
Yeah. So the plant is an example. The seed of the plant in the ground is an example of universal matter that once the sun hits it, it turns into innate intelligence, and then it grows, and then we cut it, then it turns back into universal matter, organized, and then we eat it, and then it turns back into innate intelligence within our body, right?
I love that. I remember Pasquale, I heard him someone asked him, don't you feel bad about eating that meat? And he said, I'm making that cow immortal.
Right.
He meant it. And that's kind of what you're talking about, Dave. That full cycle of spirit. And, it comes back into us, making us who we are, right?
Right. That's right.
An energetic shift. But I love that. We are making that cow immortal.
That's right.
Right. Authority,
Little side note, 2 days ago would have been Sigafus's 88th birthday.
Yep. Yeah. Marilyn Shore and I and Justin Brown in the back of the FCS convention, we had a moment of silence for him and gave thanks for him, the wonderful teachings he gave us, man. It was beautiful.
Yeah, Stu Bittman spoke last night on her Zoom. You know that name?
I know Stu very well. I gotta watch that. I didn't have a chance to join in, but he's pretty cool.
Carrie Sigafus posted some note that he'd gotten from his father years and years and years ago, and he said, we didn't always get along, but I always loved him unconditionally. It was a nice little note that Sig had written to him, and he posted up on his Facebook page. It was very nice.
Nice.
Great. Let's move on to principle 13.
Okie doke. So here we go, talking about what we were talking about a minute ago, right?
That's
function of matter. The function of matter is to express force. Nowhere in the universe can there be matter that does not receive the caretaking of universal intelligence. The great intelligence keeps it up to date every moment, and no bit of matter is without its share of vibration, for the creative thinking of universal power is transformed into what we know as forms of energy. We are never aware of these forces until they are expressed by matter. We cannot perceive motion unless matter does it, and matter will not move unless a form of energy gets into it. The same may be said of other forms of energy that we know in our study of physics, such as heat, light, and electricity. These forms are all interchangeable, hence life is but vibration in degree. The forms of which we have spoken are, according to the unchangeable laws of physics, therefore unadaptable. It applies to inorganic matter. Those structures of matter may have many varied functions. All of them are primarily to express force. It is impossible to conceive matter without force or force without matter, and we know that force originates in intelligence. Note, in bold, the term force is used in chiropractic as energy is in physics. Let me read that again, so I stumbled over it. The term force is used in chiropractic as energy is used in physics.
You know, I
Woo!
think he needed that at the end. It is impossible to conceive matter without force or force without matter. And we know that force originates in intelligence. There's a lot, you know, I was thinking this one's going to be a little bit boring, but I think it's really interesting.
It goes back to my favorite rant about the Higgs boson particle, right?
And wait till you read the next article.
I mean, should we read that one?
The next,
Well,
yeah. The next
do we have something to say about this one first?
Yeah, let's discuss 13, then we'll go to 14. You
Okay.
know, nowhere in the universe can there be matter that does not receive the caretaking of universal intelligence. You know, that means God is all things that are and aren't really, right? No matter, all matter is under the caretaking of universal intelligence. So this is as much as a discussion of matter as it is a discussion of universal intelligence, actually. Okay. So the great intelligence, all capitalized, keeps it up to date every moment, and no bit of material is without its share of vibration for the creative thinking of universal capital U, power capital P, is transformed into what we know as forms of energy. So that's, you know,
it's like a spiritual affirmation to me.
Absolutely. And that's why this is as much about universal intelligence and getting a grasp of that as it is about material, because you need that universal understanding of the power of creative forces of the universe to understand matter, what we think is the most simple thing, the carbon atom, right? Go ahead, Steve.
Know, the reason I became a chiropractor was because of the philosophy. It was explaining God in terms of science. This is exciting.
Yeah.
That's what turned me on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, people sometimes ask how does matter have intelligence? Well, you know, there's three forms of matter, right? It's a solid, gas, and liquid. Well, something solid, it's a property that it's solid. If it didn't have the intelligence, it would just fall to gas or fall to a liquid. So that's the universal intelligence within it. And, you know, when you break down whatever the matter is into molecules, atoms, protons, neutrons, and electrons, every single piece of matter has energy, intelligence. And I personally think, I won't go on record saying this, but I personally think that when you get down to the finite and you get into the atom, or excuse me, the protons, neutrons, and electrons, I think that on a much, much smaller scale, that might be somebody else's universe.
Absolutely.
And then how much smaller can that get? 1,000,000 times smaller? Of course it can. You know,
that's
something part of a multiverse.
That's what Chris Kent used to use in his talks years and years ago, the power of 10. Or actually, I think it was actually the Guy Riekman might have used that, the powers of 10. I don't remember who I saw it with first, where they go all the way down, real small, and it turns, and then all the way back out, and it's all this, and winds up being the same on both ends.
Right.
Dave Fletcher talks about how can you know there's mental impulses are like the breeze that you can see because the leaves move, right? And that it's so that it's a manifestation. The energy is manifest through the physical thing. And as you were saying, Dave, that the integrity of the structure of water is the same when it's ice, the same when it's water, and the same when it's a gas vapor in a cloud. You know, it's all, and that's intelligence, maintaining that integrity through different forms of the same type of matter. And you can do that with all things that transpose between, you know, the volatilized is, I think, the term, but that transpose from through different states like that. You know, alcohol goes through a liquid state, goes through a state very quickly to gas. but other things take a much more energy to exchange it.
Think about just the bonds to put together for hydrogen can go with anything and oxygen can go somewhere else to make water, to make a rock, to make your brain, to make the body. And there's some intelligence in there. How about this? Let's go on to principle 14. Then we're almost halfway through the 33 principles. All right.
Sounds good.
254.
I got a bunch of marks on this one.
Yeah.
Article 330 in the senior text here, universal life in all matter. Principle 14. Force is manifested by motion in matter. All matter has motion. Therefore, there is universal life in all matter. This is a principle derived from and really belonging to number 2. Life is necessarily the union of intelligence and matter. Intelligence is an entity. Matter is an entity. The character of matter when intelligence is present is what we call life. It is made known to us by matter expressing the force which intelligence creates. Quote, life is manifested by vibrations according to degree, unquote. Molecules have vibrations, manifesting force. Nothing but intelligence could issue the force. Tissue cells have vibrations, a great degree of life, manifesting force. Bodies of animate things have more movement from within, still more life. It requires intelligent creative forces to cause such movements. Therefore, an organism with signs of life has more intelligence united with it than the molecule. The vibrations of molecules and atoms are manifestations of universal life. Our ability to perceive is exactly proportional to our ability to recognize universal intelligence all about us.
Wow.
Yeah, every structure is matter from a lump of clay to the tiger has intelligence in it, exactly proportional to its state of organization. The higher the grade of structure, the higher grade of intelligence present to make it and keep it that way. Degree in chiropractic terminology is taken to mean degree of perfection. Therefore, it involves quality as well as quantity.
Wow.
Our ability to perceive life is exactly proportional to our ability to recognize universal intelligence all about us.
I had to go back and read that. I have to say, once we got to that point, I was like, I lost you because I was like, I got to go back and read that again. Hold on.
Yeah. That's a bit. I have that really bolded out in my notes here. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Every structure of matter from lump of clay to a tiger has intelligence in it exactly proportional to its state of organization. The helium atom has organization to it. It's only one unit.
Yeah.
But it still has intelligence.
Yeah. But
we have a much higher complexity of organization and therefore require more intelligence and have more expression of that intelligence.
I think exactly what you're saying is when we convey that to our practice members, we should let them know, hey, listen, this isn't chiropractic. This is what it is. You know, what chiropractic is something different. This is talking about there's life, there's universal life in every single piece of matter. And within a living thing, there's an inborn innate intelligence. And then say the chiropractor's job is to align the vertebra so the innate intelligence expresses into the body without interference. But people need to know, hey, listen, what we're talking about here, this isn't chiropractic. You know, this is facts. This is what it is, you know?
Explaining universal laws.
Right.
Because, you know, it's, as chiropractors, we're trained to be able to see this. A lot of people don't see that, though, you know?
Right. Yeah, to take the bit about intelligence in each thing to a different level as we get, you know, where you go, where does life come from and where does that, you know, they haven't been able to figure that out. They haven't been able to ever manifest it, but somehow the chemistry happened in that organisms that different molecules came together and started to join together and finally formed a single cell at some point. And the cells, and over time, those cells started to find that if they worked together, they'd be more organized and could survive better. And then they started to differentiate, to have different components of to do different jobs within a bigger unit of cells, of organisms. And so you get to, amoeba, and you come up the line. And in reality, our bodies are groups of cells that are organized. We have a heart that's a group of cells, and we have lungs that are a group of cells, and we have muscles that are groups of cells, and they all have different jobs, but they're all organized and working together to a large degree. And that's really what evolution was. As each group, as it got higher and higher, and there were bigger groups and more work to be done in an organized fashion. That's where it all came from. And we, at this point, as far as we know in this world, are at a higher level than other things. We don't know that if someplace else there might be something else that's more highly organized than we are at this point. But as far as we know it, we seem to be the highest organized here, unless we're being dumb about the way the whales and the elephants are.
Well, don't they say that the DNA strands or whatever are in plants are longer than they are in humans, which they expected to be more highly evolved to have the longer the chain, and plants have much longer chains than living beings on Earth, other living beings. Whoa. There was a lot to digest out of that. That's a whoa. We've just read some, intense chiropractic or philosophy, human philosophy of consciousness. So, like David's talking about, how do we take this to our people is one thing that we know, and we have that confidence. What it is, just like Dr. Sid talked about, is that the authority to know that we are part of the big connection. Being well adjusted helps us maintain our space in that giant connection. That's the way the first thing that just came to my mind.
Think about this.
Adjustment is, so my vibration is in harmony with the other vibrations around me. That's what I truly want. All my kids' friends to be adjusted, and all of us, my whole town, to be in harmony and well adjusted. I think that's one of my whys to be a chiropractor, because I want to live in that utopian world where everyone's well adjusted. My mission statement in my office is, is to bring heaven on earth, to create a heavenly earth, which is on earth as it is in heaven. Everyone well adjusted. I could imagine just living in a utopia. Everyone's blissful. Bliss.
What we got done reading is about going from simple to more complex. In the beginning, supposedly, according to science, there was maybe just one chemical in the periodic table, the chemistry periodic table. And then through time, it became more complicated. Then we had minerals, then we had more complicated. And this is all on a progression towards greater perfection, according to what we just read. Because it says in the bottom, degree in chiropractic terminology is taken to mean degree of perfection. The higher the grade of structure, the higher the grade of intelligence present. So what's happening in evolution is it's marching towards greater perfection. And that's if we just don't interfere with it and allow it to happen, we're becoming, perfection's not a static thing. You don't just reach it. It always is growing more. There's always more. That's why I believe, and some people think it's impossible, but I think even God is growing. Somebody said, no way, in the audience when I was at a seminar. No, God knows everything. He can't know more. Well, God is infinite, therefore he also has the ability to learn. You can't keep growth away from God and learning away from God. So there is this progression towards perfection, more and more, more and more, more and more.
what the first thing that came to mind is like the Mandelbrot set, or where we're looking at fractal geometry, things going out into the infinite. But then what Pasquale said to me one time, he said, God is a hologram. You could take one piece out of there, he's still the whole thing in the hologram. And what you're just saying, Steve, just made me think about really is that, things going on for that, what I'm talking about with fractal geometry, or, like the Mandelbrot set, things going on into infinite. And, that's where the perfection is. It gets more beautiful, the more finite it becomes. I had fun with this one tonight, you guys.
On a side note, please be conscious, gentlemen, of the fact that if you call God he, you immediately limit.
Oh, did I say that? Did I say he?
I'm sure I have. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
That's just something to think about.
Oh yeah.
That's a limit. That's a limitation. It's not a hole at that point.
It's an easy concept.
Absolutely. You're taught that as a child. You're taught that as a child.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
we understand the concept of a universal intelligence and a God to be bigger than that.
So I'm going to work on that, because I think that's an important, refinement, and I appreciate it very much. Absolutely. Thank you.
I want to make sure Monty knows we know he's here, and if he wants to say something, we'd love to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, Monty, this is an open forum. We're chatting about philosophy. Jump in anytime you want, but I also want to give you a minute. Thank you, Alan, for doing that.
Well, thank you so much, guys. Just to be here is just a blessing, and I'm just ultimately just tapping into all this knowledge. So thank you so much.
Where are you? Where are you in the world?
I'm in Ventnor City, New Jersey.
Okay, awesome, man.
Yes.
Right on.
Well, we love hearing all points of view, and we hope we're stimulating you to make some thoughts. And please join in with us. And we have no rights to be pontificating on our own. We're just mouthing off.
And join the page, the Synapse Philosophy page on Facebook. And I put this on YouTube, and I put these also the audio on Spotify. Okay, so you can get all these. We've been doing it for we have a couple of 100 episodes. Awesome, guys. I think we did a lot tonight. I think we should stop there. I mean, 13, what do we do? 12, 13, 14. And there was a lot. I tell you, those
a lot of deep stuff in those three too.
Huh?
A lot of deep stuff.
A lot of deep stuff. And I skip over those. I've been reading 33 Principles. I used to have them posted on my walls. Those are the ones I skip the most. And I got a lot out of reading them, and I appreciate it very much, man.
And the thing that is disturbing, and I think for all of us, is that most at most of the schools, students are not being exposed to this in a viable way. It's not like when I was at Sherman and at Life, and we would sit and talk about, does innate talk to innate? Can we, how do you know? How can you tell that somebody? How is it that sometimes you're sitting in your house and and somebody's coming to the door before they knock on the door, or how do you know the phone's going to ring? Before the phone rings. How does that happen?
Yeah.
Is that innate talking to innate? I mean, we used to have those conversations in the cafeteria at school, and I don't think that's happening in most of the schools now. And
it's not. I don't go to school. Is that a fact?
I see it a little bit. They're working on it. You know what I mean? And a lot of people are listening to this. I mean, this is, all these things, we're making history right now. I mean, on Spotify, in 10 years, we could have some students listening to these 33 principles and getting it. We could be changing the world. It might not be today. And we get hits. We get about 100 or something new video people watching the YouTube channel, Wow. It's from around the world. I really see, what we're doing right now, I think is important for marking this time in history for chiropractic. Okay. Whether we go through this again in 10 years and we're seeing it with new eyes and hearing it with new ears and discussing all these things again, we're going to be amazed with the things we come up with, because it's infinite. It's not finite, right? It's like the Bible. You read it once, it was a good book. No, every time you read it, whoa, you know?
Well,
So I
I
appreciate every
surely hope
single
that
one
I'm
of
here
you.
to do it again in 10 years with you, Haig.
Well, you will take a break in a while, one day, but you know, this is the thing, you know, I appreciate you, the 1% of the 1%. I mean, realize we've had a lot of people coming and going on here, and I claim them too. But to come and sit and talk about chiropractic philosophy, not a lot of people are doing it right now. And you know what? This just blew me away. Big time, big time.
And it always surprises me the things we come up with as we discuss these. It's so valuable. It's so good.
And think about
Yeah,
all the ladies and men that came before us. They used to call it breaking it down. They met a lot more and did this. It used to be Sigafus, Reggie Gold, Arnold Bernier, Pasquale. All those guys used to meet in Pennsylvania and New York and talk about philosophy all night. Okay. Could you imagine me with those guys? Those are the ones that were doing it back then.
well, we just read tonight that everywhere there is this caringness going on. It's everywhere in matter.
That's right.
Peggy, who is one of the number one female philosophers of all time?
Mabel.
Modern day time.
Modern day time. You
Say
tell
it.
me, who you thinking of?
Sue Brown.
Sue Brown.
Sue Brown.
Absolutely. God bless her. You know, we have BGI2 at my office in a couple of weeks. I think in like 2 weeks, BGI2 is at my office. It's going to be intense.
Yeah.
This is our fourth one we've had there. And the students that are coming now, I'm telling you, are samurais.
There you have it.
You know, they're driving. This is like some of them. This is like the fourth time they're coming to my office from Atlanta. We've got kids flying in from Life West. I mean, the world's. I could see them. They are blossoming. Steve Allen, they are blossoming in philosophy. They're the few. Okay, Dave knows that too. But those few light some sparks and fires, man. They really do. They do. I'm excited for our future. I am. All right. I'm excited for you guys, and I appreciate you. All right. Let's sign off. I get renewed and rejuvenated. Love you, brother. You too, Monty. Hope you can join us again, man. And invite your friends. Everyone's welcome to share. Okay.
Even
Love you
people
guys.
from
Good night.